It's frightening what Nostradamus predicts for Donald Trump. His prophecies are truly shocking, and apparently he has hit the mark again. Consider this. Nostradamus predicted by saying, "The hidden false Trump will be exposed, one of blood and another of laws mixed. He will be brought down by the great thunder, one of the greatest captured at night." The unheard voice joined to a great leader in North America. A free man will be born, the great empire will be near its end. The man will be contested by many. The great star will burn for 7 days. The cloud will make double shadow. The great dog will howl all night when the great pontiff changes territory. In the middle of the great new from the deep sea, and someone whom Moses and Mosey fear, whose words and deeds in dark times will prosper. The great ship will be taken by the waves to a far and dangerous place. A bold leader will rise from the shadows, and many kings will be his allies. The great wall rising in the north will divide lands and nations. The man with golden hair will rise, and many will perish under his decisions. The great thunder in the western world with his brothers will unite, the sea agitated and the strong winds. The land of the free will be tested. The man from the high tower who commands from above will be challenged by many, but few will dare to bring him down. The great leader, in his thirst for power, will bring discord and conflict to the peoples. The land of the free will tremble, but a new hope will arise in the 7th month of the great millennium. From the sky will come a great king of terror. He will resurrect the great king of the Mongols. Before and after he will reign in good fortune. Now let's analyze each prophecy that Nostradamus predicts for Donald Trump, which is shocking everyone. The ruler will tremble with discord and will have a bloody mouth swimming in blood. Nostradamus made many predictions, including the rise of Nazism in Germany and the violent French Revolution. With this, many people became curious about his prophecies regarding America. Interestingly, America also has its own Nostradamus, who predicted all the presidential elections in the United States over the last 40 years, with more than 90% accuracy. We are talking about Alan Lichtman. Alan Lichtman correctly predicted the winner of the presidential elections over the last 40 years, being considered the Nostradamus of American presidential elections. Want to know how accurate these two characters were and what they predicted for Donald Trump in 2024? Stay here with me as we explore all this together. If you like topics like this and are not yet subscribed, click now on the subscribe button right below the video. Nostradamus's past predictions may show that he did not have all this knowledge already determined, which could give him great flexibility to predict many of these things. When you hear the name Nostradamus, the first thing that comes to mind are apocalyptic prophecies and end-of-the-world predictions. Michel de Nostradamus, known as Nostradamus, has a fascinating history. Little is known about his family life, but historians agree that he came from a noble family, as he showed signs of someone who received a good education. He dedicated much of his life to the practice of medicine and treating contagious diseases, but there is no confirmation that he had a medical degree. Few people knew him until he published his book, Les Prophéties, in 1555. This collection of 942 prophetic quatrains made Nostradamus very popular, especially in 16th century France. The verses address various topics, from natural disasters and wars to political unrest and social changes. So that you can more quickly and easily understand all these signs, we are facing difficult times in which the prophecies are being fulfilled, but many do not realize what is happening around the world. For this reason, I have decided to offer a gift to all channel subscribers, a digital ebook, The Secret Behind the Holy Bible, so that you can download it immediately. The link is in the first pinned comment. In this book, I reveal all the secrets of biblical prophecies that will shock you. Do not waste time. Click on the first pinned comment because we only have a few units available, and soon it will be taken down. Now that you know some of Nostradamus's prophecies, let's discuss his shocking predictions for Donald Trump. How would you feel to know that there is a living Nostradamus today? We are not referring to the French Michel de Nostradamus, but rather to Alan Lichtman, popularly known as the Nostradamus of the U.S. presidential elections. He has an impressive history, having correctly predicted 9 of the last 10 U.S. presidential races. With his systematic and data-based approach, Lichtman is gearing up to predict the next election between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. In case you've never heard of him, Lichtman is an experienced history professor at American University in Washington and began his election prediction journey more than 40 years ago. While Donald Trump acknowledged the prediction of his previous victory, he didn't understand the deeper meaning of Lichtman's system. In 1981, while serving as a visiting researcher at the California Institute of Technology, Lichtman partnered with Vladimir Kailis-Borok, a prominent earthquake prediction expert with a strong interest in American politics. Their collaboration resulted in the renowned 13 Keys to the White House, an innovative method that examines presidential elections from the perspective of stability versus disruption. The approach of the 13 Keys combines patterns of historical stability with contemporary political dynamics and has become a key tool in electoral prediction. Lichtman joked that he discovered the keys by accident. He said, "I'd love to say that I developed my system by examining archives and in deep contemplation, but, to quote the late and great Richard Nixon, that would be wrong." But how exactly do the 13 keys work? You are about to be impressed. The 13 Keys to the White House are the only do-it-yourself prediction system in the world. Now, everyone can become electoral forecasters using the 13 keys. The keys are true or false questions designed to assess the chances of the party in power. These keys evaluate various factors of the party that is in power, including economic conditions, social unrest, significant policy changes, and the charisma of the candidate. If 6 or more keys are false, it indicates that the current party will likely lose power. Unlike the French Nostradamus, these are not mystical prophecies, but a data-based approach. The keys also consider factors such as the party's performance in midterm elections, the presence of a strong challenger, the state of the economy, the public perception of the leader, and foreign policy. Analyzing these fundamental aspects, Lichtman's model has correctly predicted each presidential election since 1984, making it a powerful tool for understanding the dynamics that influence elections in the United States. Next, we will reveal the prophecy of the Nostradamus of the U.S. presidential elections for 2024. How accurate is the Nostradamus of the U.S. presidential elections? Let's briefly remember to understand Lichtman's decision. When Lichtman and Kailis-Borok published their findings in an academic journal, they caught the attention of a science reporter from the Associated Press, leading to an article in the Washington Post titled, "Odd Couple Discovers the Keys to the White House." The public was enthusiastic about the theories, but wanted to see Lichtman apply them in practice. An opportunity finally arose in April 1982. Lichtman used the keys in the magazine The Washingtonian to predict that, despite the economic recession, low approval, and advanced age of Ronald Reagan, he would secure re-election 2 years later. The president's response to his prediction would surprise him. Lichtman was immediately invited to the White House after publishing his prediction. He met several officials, including then Vice President George Bush. In 1988, by May and June, George Bush was losing by 18 points to his opponent Michael Dukakis, but ended up winning easily. Asked about the outcome if Reagan chose not to run for re-election, Lichtman suggested that the incumbent party would lose several critical keys, including the essential factor of the incumbent's charisma. Lichtman's analysis was accurate. Without Reagan's charisma, the Republican candidate George Bush would have had difficulties. Bush's ability to capitalize on the positive aspects of Reagan's legacy, including peace, economic prosperity, domestic stability, and progress in relations with the Soviet Union, contributed to his victory. Voters seemed to want to see these trends continue under Bush's leadership. Despite his successful predictions, Lichtman faced criticism from some academics. These critics argued that his system relied excessively on subjective judgment, a significant flaw in scientific predictions. Lichtman defended his approach, highlighting that his keys were clearly defined and based on historical analysis. He argued that historians routinely make judgments based on evidence, and his system was no different. His track record of success served as further validation of his approach. Lichtman's persistence paid off. Over the next 15 to 20 years, attitudes within the academic community of prediction changed. As complex mathematical models proved unreliable, forecasters began to see the value of combining statistical analysis with informed judgment, similar to Lichtman's approach. His keys to the White House system gained popularity, and Lichtman became a sought-after speaker. He presented his ideas at forecasting conferences, wrote articles in academic journals, and even shared his insights with the CIA on how his system could be applied to foreign elections. Remarkably, his predictions continued to be accurate. Despite his high approval ratings after the Gulf War, Lichtman predicted that George Bush would be a one-term president, leading many high-ranking Democrats to avoid challenging him. Then, Lichtman received a call from a special assistant to Governor Bill Clinton in Little Rock, Arkansas. "Are you saying that George Bush can be defeated in 1992? She asked. Lichtman confirmed his prediction. Clinton won the Democratic primaries and finally defeated Bush in the presidential election. The Clintons have been big fans of the keys ever since, as Lichtman notes. Before continuing the video, an important message. Don't forget to get your copy of our book. It's in the first pinned comment of this video. Lichtman, predicting 9 of 10 past American elections, faced a notable failure. Or, as he claims, his prediction didn't fail, but the election was manipulated. Let's take a closer look at this surprising failure. Lichtman faced one of the most turbulent years of his forecasting career in 2000, when he predicted a victory for Democratic Vice President Al Gore over George Bush, the Republican governor of Texas. Although Gore won the popular vote, he lost in the Electoral College by a narrow margin. However, Lichtman maintains that his prediction was correct. He claimed that the election was stolen. According to him, the real votes indicated that Al Gore should have won decisively, but many ballots of black voters, who were overwhelmingly favorable to Gore, were discarded. He compiled his findings in a report for the United States Commission on Civil Rights, stating that 1 in every 9 to 10 ballots of black voters was discarded, in contrast with 1 in every 50 ballots of white voters. He also explained that most of these discarded votes were not the infamous Chads, but rather over votes. Black voters were instructed to punch in Gore and Lieberman to be sure, and these ballots ended up being discarded. He added that political scientists have since examined the election and verified his findings. Based on the intent of the voter, he argued that Al Gore should have won by tens of thousands of votes. He added that he firmly believed he was correct about the 2000 election. At least, he argued that no definitive prediction could be considered entirely correct or incorrect, allowing arguments from both sides. He maintained that he and many others supported his record, stating that he was correct in all 10 predictions. However, even if it were argued that he was right only 9 out of 10 times, he pointed out that this was still an impressive track record. Before we reveal what this modern Nostradamus predicted for Donald Trump in 2024, let's look at his prediction for the 2016 elections, which surprised Americans. Lichtman's prediction for Trump in 2016 might have been his most impressive prediction. challenging polls, commentators, and conventional wisdom. He predicted that Donald Trump, a former reality TV star with no political or military experience, would achieve an unlikely victory over a former Secretary of State. In 2016, how could he know? He explained that the sixth critical key was the contest key, which referred to Bernie Sanders' challenge against Hillary Clinton. As no incumbent was running for re-election, the Democrats did not have the typical advantages of an incumbent candidate. Additionally, the party performed poorly in the 2014 midterm elections, losing another key. The lack of a domestic achievement after the Affordable Care Act and the absence of a major foreign policy success after the elimination of bin Laden also weighed on the outcome. There were just enough keys, he said, and it was not an easy decision. After the election, Lichtman received a copy of an interview in the Washington Post where he made the prediction. It was written with a Sharpie pen. "Congratulations, Professor. Good prediction, Donald Trump." However, in the same conversation, Lichtman also predicted, again accurately, that presidential elections are fundamentally a referendum on the performance of the party in power, and that Trump would face an impeachment. His predictions extended to 2020, with Trump's difficulties in handling the pandemic. "The pandemic was what hurt him," he said. Trump congratulated him for predicting his victory, but did not understand the importance of the keys. The essence of the keys is that governance, not just campaigning, determines the outcomes. Instead of addressing the pandemic substantially, as we saw, he believed he could get away with talking. This eventually led to his defeat in 2020. Lichtman presented the keys as one of 3 classic forecasting models at the American Political Science Association. Now we have reached the most epic moment of the video. What is Lichtman's Nostradamus prediction for Trump in 2024? In recent months, Lichtman has been invited to deliver keynote speeches at Asian and Brazilian financial conferences, at the Oxford Union, and at J.P. Morgan. As another election approaches, he remains skeptical about polls indicating that Trump is ahead of Biden. I am about to reference, but this shows Donald Trump with a steady lead in a head-to-head rematch against President Biden, putting Trump at 49% and Biden at 43% during the 2024 presidential election. Nostradamus said he has not yet made a final prediction. He reminded about his 13 keys to the White House model, which has been correct since 1984 in 10 consecutive elections. A recent Reuters poll shows that voters in the United States see Trump as more favorable for the economy than President Biden. In this 3-day survey, 41% preferred Trump's economic policies, while 34% favored those of Biden. However, Lichtman warned that early polls should be taken seriously, but they have no predictive value. They are just snapshots and momentary, indicating the position of the candidates if the elections were held today. But the election is not being held today, so these polls are not useful for predictions. Early polls can often mislead you, Lichtman told NDTV. Furthermore, he also reminded people about the accuracy of his prediction of Donald Trump's victory in 2016, despite the results of polls and media coverage to the contrary. He also mentioned the 1988 election, when George Bush overcame a 17-point deficit against Michael Dukakis to win with a 25-point turnaround. These examples demonstrate why it is essential to look beyond polls and commentators and focus on the broader picture as indicated by the keys. Lichtman is expected to make his final prediction for the 2024 presidential election in early August. He points out that Biden already holds the incumbency key, and after easily defeating symbolic challengers in the Democratic primaries, he also holds the contest key. This means that 6 additional keys would need to turn against him to predict his defeat. A lot would have to go wrong for Biden to lose. It is also important to mention that Lichtman places importance on the selection of vice presidential candidates and has never altered his prediction in response to an October surprise. However, he admits that no predictive model is entirely immune to surprising events. But does this mean his model could fail? Speaking during the week when a jury was selected for Trump's criminal trial in New York related to a hush money payment to an adult film actress, it seems that a Trump appeal for the New York criminal trial could occur just days before the November election. Lichtman explained that his keys for predicting election outcomes are based on historical data and trends. These keys were developed broadly from 1860 to the present day. Since 1984, this historical base allows the keys to capture and reflect significant changes and developments in various aspects of society, including the economy, demographics, and political landscape. By examining patterns and trends over this extensive period, the keys provide a robust framework for understanding and predicting election outcomes, or how historical context influences contemporary elections. However, he quickly added that his model, like all human models, is not immune to errors. Lichtman spoke about the possibility of failure, which is enlightening in recognizing the potential limitations of his predictive model. He noted that the current American election has elements that are outside the historical scope, specifically referring to the situation where the former President Trump, a significant candidate, is undergoing a criminal trial. He suggests that if this candidate is convicted, a scenario he considers likely, this could significantly disrupt or confuse the usual factors that his keys consider when predicting election outcomes. Simply, his model does not capture the potential effect of Trump's conviction or his possible incarceration. This shows that Lichtman's keys have historically been reliable in predicting election outcomes based on established patterns. It seems that this will put him in a very difficult position to predict the winner of this year's election. Millions of people will be anxious on the night of November 5th. After 4 decades involved in election predictions, Lichtman will have another period to experience the anxiety. It's distressing because many would be happy to see him fail, he acknowledges. And if he fails, he admits that he is human. This does not mean that his system is wrong. Nothing is perfect in the human world. Returning to what we were discussing, does the French Nostradamus have any prophecy for Donald Trump in 2020? Readers of Nostradamus speculate about his prophecies for the future. In this prophecy, Nostradamus speaks of a false trumpet hiding madness, causing changes in laws and standards. The interpretation suggests that this false trumpet represents Donald Trump, whose actions and controversial policies during the first term led to significant changes in the domestic and international relations of the United States. The mention of Byzantium symbolizes the United States, indicating a transformation in its governance and politics. The prophecy also mentions Egypt and the withdrawal of a mandate, suggesting that Trump will win the election and make radical changes in regulations and standards, especially in financial matters. The prophecy still mentions that the ruler will tremble with discord and will have a bloody mouth swimming in blood, which denotes the chaos and conflict associated with Trump's presidency, including his divisive words and aggressive approach to politics. Overall, the prophecy is interpreted as a warning that a second presidential term for Trump would be entirely marked by deception and recklessness for the nation and the world. Another prophecy of Nostradamus that seems to talk about a possible victory for Trump for a second term is when he mentions that a great, shameless fighter will be elected governor of the army. They explain that the term shameless fighter aligns with Trump's aggressive and reckless behavior, which has always defined his political career. His election as governor of the army is interpreted as a metaphor for assuming political leadership over America, reflecting Trump's role as commander-in-chief of the United States Armed Forces. Nostradamus also said that the leader would cause a broken bridge and a city to faint from fear, suggesting that Trump's leadership would have a disruptive and disturbing impact on the United States. This may include his approach to foreign policy and national security. This interpretation calls for fear about the potential consequences of Trump's bold and assertive actions, both domestically and internationally. Don't forget to download our book, The Secret Behind Biblical Prophecies. Over 500,000 copies have been sold, and we are down to the last few units, so don't waste time and take advantage of this. I guarantee that you will gain a lot of knowledge after reading this sensational book, made with a lot of care and love for all subscribers of our channel, totally based on the Holy Bible. The link is in the first pinned comment. Click now on the video that is appearing on your screen to discover more about what the future holds for us. On our channel, you will find a detailed analysis of Nostradamus's prophecies and their possible implications for future events. We will explore how his 16th century visions continue to fascinate and intrigue, linking them to contemporary events. In addition, we will dive into other intriguing and debated prophecies of Nostradamus, from natural disasters to global social and political changes. If you are curious to see how these prophecies may influence the current and future world, don't miss the upcoming videos. We will also explore the predictions of other famous seers and examine how their visions align or contrast with those of Nostradamus. We will discuss the methodologies behind these prophecies, the historical accuracy, and the diverse interpretations that make these studies so controversial and fascinating. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the notifications to not miss any updates. Every week, we bring new and exciting content about historical mysteries, predictions, and unexplained phenomena. Join us on this journey of discovery and reflection on what the future may hold for us. Your next great insight might be just a click away.